People who are interested in career advice in Israel, here's a book called מצליחה בדרכה, החופש להיות את בקריירה, the freedom to be yourself in a career. So I went to this institution for, it's called career advice or employment psychologist, and this woman runs it. I don't want to say the name, but this book published by this woman is absurd. First of all, I would like to tell you why I think it's absurd. She has all kinds of stories about women finding their careers, but guess what? None of them have found their career choice through going to an institution, paying money, and getting career advice. So what's the point of publishing this book to promote your institution when none of these women went to career advisors? So it's like saying, don't spend the money on a career advisor, just go on a trip to Sri Lanka or just make your life choices according to your gut feeling. None of these women have ever gone to a career advisor or a psychologist. So I know one friend who did, but then again, she was told she'd be good in engineering, and people that are good in engineering don't really need a career advisor because their life plans are pretty much clear. They like math and science, and they're very good at math and science, and so it's either computer science or engineering. It's not such a big difference. But people that are very creative and different and unusual sometimes struggle. So what another point I thought was really funny was she said, finally, I want to say thanks to my beloved family and to my husband that all this would not have happened without him. So much for feminism, so much for female empowerment. All this would not have happened without him. I'll have to do a Hebrew edition as well. So maybe I sound bitter, but for me, a feminist is not someone who says, thank you to my husband, without him, all this wouldn't have been possible. And there are stories here of women that have pursued their dreams because their husband paid for it, because their husband makes a lot of money in the one field in Israel and in the world that's very good to make money, and that is computers and high tech. So people that are in a high tech can very easily tell their wives, oh honey, do a pottery class, do whatever you want. There's a story here of a person who did a pottery class and became a very successful artist. But again, all this without this book. It was thanks to her husband having unlimited financial possibilities, and thanks to her having talent, and thanks to her being the kind of person that can build a business. Not everybody can. So my advice to people that are seeking to know, like, what can I do? If you flip through this book, there are different fields, but they're all very, there are people that, it's not like second career, it's like people that have found their calling, they have found their field, and it's very clear cut. Not people that have struggled to find what their path is, like me. So she talked to me, and then she said, oh, do you think you could be, I wanted to study therapy through animals. And she said, oh, that means you have to be a therapist. Do you really think you can be a therapist, that you can put up with the pressure and everything that's involved in being a therapist? And then I thought, this is what gives therapists a bad name. This is why in English, therapists are called often shrinks, because they shrink you. Because let's say you have great ideas, and I understand if I say, you know what, I want to build a big company, I want to take big loans, but all it was is a once a week program for 3 years. Okay, you do study psychotherapy and all that, but that doesn't hurt anybody. And then she said, I don't think you will be good working with youth. You should be working with little kids. Little does she know, I get along really well with teenagers. And the thing is, she also went to university. I don't want to brag, but I went to the best university in Israel. She went to the least competitive university in Israel. I went to the Hebrew University. She went to Ben Gurion. Sorry, but people who get accepted to her university are the leftovers. Okay, she did a master's and everything, and she has 2 cats, she admitted. But I don't understand what she was thinking by telling me that she doesn't think I could actually help people. Yes, I think most therapists are a type. They're very introverted. When I walk in the office, the secretary is extremely nice. She made me a cup of coffee, but with soy milk. Afterwards, I got actually sick. Maybe it was because of the soy milk being not so good. I don't know. But the other people that work there are like, they don't have facial expressions. When I said to the woman who's smiling, she's smiling here. When she walks in the office, she was like, and you would think she would make an effort. Maybe it's the Americanized side of me that you think she would say, oh, hello, and introduce herself. So what I want to say is the book, Succeeding in Her Way, The Freedom to Be Yourself in a Career, she didn't give me that impression that I'm free to choose my career. She gave me the impression that she's going to judge me. And based on her biases, she's going to say that I'm not fit to work in therapy because I seem too intense of a person. I thought a lot about it, and I thought a lot about it again. And part of the reasons why I thought at this point in my life, I want to study therapy is because I really, truly want to not only help myself, but help my family, my children, and to be able to develop a dialogue with them. And these are things you learn. I don't think any therapist is born perfect. They're not like the perfect kid. I don't think a good therapist is the one who always gets 100 on the test, always gets good grades. I was that kind of a person, but I was always a very unusual person. And I think the fathers of psychology, whether it's Carl Jung, whether it's Sigmund Freud, were unusual people. But probably if they had gone to the interview, she would have said, you're too crazy to be a therapist. Jung had a joke, actually. He said, thank God that I'm not a Jungian or something, a Jungian therapist, because he was very, even though he was Swiss, he had a sense of humor, and he always thought that therapists take themselves too seriously. And they have this, and I also had this impression. But I think there's a place for all types of people in every field. I had second thought about it, and I was thinking about also the financial implications. But I'm still waiting to speak with the head of the program, who's a therapist himself, and to discuss my doubts. When I went to the interview, I had no doubts. I said, this is what I want to do. I love animals. I just had a doubt of where I should do it. And I was thinking what am I going to do until I finish the program. I spoke to a really nice person called Shuki, who works in therapy. And he said there's a big room for creativity. And I think you have to understand when you go to certain advisors, they might be jealous because you're doing what they don't dare to do because they're stuck in this office, industrial part of Maybach, and they're not doing anything exciting. They're not taking risks. They're just doing very square. They put people in a little square box. And, I think it's really difficult field to give people employment advice. And I think ideally it should be done by somebody who works who's neutral, who doesn't work for a private firm. Because of course she wanted me to come again, but after she insulted me and made me sound like I'm a cuckoo, I wasn't going to do it again. I think a lot of people have a problem with creativity. A lot of therapists have a problem with seeing creativity as not a sign of madness. Yes, I do have sometimes problems getting along with certain people, but I also have a lot of advantage that I'm self-aware. And I was reading a book called Emotional Intelligence again, and they stressed that one of the most important things in emotional intelligence is being aware, being able to observe yourself and your actions. There's so many people that are not aware. And for me, that's the number one reason not to be a therapist. If you have very low self-awareness and you're not aware you have problems. A therapist is not a perfect person. And if they make you feel like they're a perfect person, like I would say all the therapists I've ever met made me feel, don't go to them. I went one time, and one time was enough. I'm not saying all the work psychologists are not good, but be aware that they're trying to put you in a little frame, just like the frame behind you, like a picture frame. They need to see how you fit in society. And if you're an unusual and creative person, a lot of great ideas, you're not going to get that in a career advisor. The people here, like this mindfulness advisor, she was a Tibetan Buddhist monk for like a few years. You don't do that when you don't go to a career advisor and say, should I sit in a forest somewhere and be a Buddhist monk, a Buddhist nun? People, it's just not a career choice. So if you're a person with unusual ideas and creativity, I wouldn't send you to a career advisor. I would, however, say sit down with a financial planner and try to see how much money you have in the bank and try to be more aware on that side. My mom always had people advising, if you don't have a lot of money, try to get someone who is from an official, like, a social worker, to sit down with you, look at your finance, and make sure you can finance your ideas, especially now in this time with the corona crisis. So definitely don't go to private institutions and expect them to be the Wizard of Oz. Even the Wizard of Oz, if you recall this story, was not the Wizard of Oz. Remember Dorothy, the lion, the scarecrow, the Tin Man? They all looked for someone, a wizard, somebody who can transform their lives. Okay, Dorothy didn't have a big wish. She just wanted to go home. The Tin Man, I think, wanted a heart. The scarecrow wanted a brain. The lion wanted courage. And at the end, the wizard was a small little man. And he was not at all a person who's able to create miracles. But he empowered them. Because they saw he was such a small man, they realized that the power to change is within himself. Empowerment starts here. So yes, we do need professionals to help us a lot of times. Don't be afraid to ask for help. But if you have an unusual idea, if you're an unusual person, don't expect somebody's approval. The society doesn't approve of unusual people. Society sweeps them away. Society gets rid of unusual people. Just make sure that you're not financially ruined by your ideas. Yes, take a risk, but make sure that it's a calculated risk. Peace, love, and love. And I will update you